What's up, everybody, and welcome to ITG Daily, the show that brings you the hottest in gaming news. I'm Drew Bosley, that's Scott Savage, and you can join us each and every day over at InsideTheGame.ca podcast services. Thanks to our friends at Fired Up Network, all 212 platforms, our YouTube channel, Inside the Game Official, and don't forget those beautiful TV streaming networks around the globe: Roku, Amazon Prime, Samsung Plus, Jinx Esports TV, ESTV, and many more. Scott, what's on today's show?
We have Death Stranding 2 meets Keanu. Interesting. Starfields leaked title screen has caused a splash, to say the least. Metal Gear Solid Master Collection comes with a warning. And Overwatch 2 Steam review bombing has an answer.
Wow, there you go. Dude, we got a hot week coming out this week. Make sure you stick around. There's a lot of reviews dropping this week. I'll kind of leave it at that. Scott, right now, though, dude, I've been back in the world of GTA. I'm going into the casino. I'm spinning that wheel. They got a gangster car in there right now, and I'm trying hard to get it. Dude, you spin that wheel and go click, 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 click. And then it just goes past the car. I was like, come on, man. I wanted to roll up my gangster suit and stuff. What are you playing?
I made a friend on GTA yesterday, actually. Yeah, I was doing one of the gun running missions out of my airport, and one of those hover bikes actually came to help me and scared off the helicopters. I was surprised.
Wow, yeah, it's not something you see very often, but there you see often is us, so let's get going on today's show. Scott, topic number one is a hot one, as Death Stranding 2 makes its return, as fans think Keanu Reeves may be in the next game after a new Kojima post. It's kind of a bit of a giveaway, if not a brand new game. Scott, let's get into this. This is Cade Onder over at comicbook.com. Hideo Kojima has shared a bunch of pictures of Norman Reedus and Keanu Reeves hanging out, which naturally sent Death Stranding fans for a loop. Hideo Kojima is one of the most critically named in gaming history, dude. At this point, everybody, I believe, understands who Hideo Kojima is. If you don't, Metal Gear Solid. That's all I have to say.
Enough said.
He has a rich knowledge of storytelling and has been able to mix that with incredibly innovative gameplay. While some games have been criticized for being too cinematic, no way. So Kojima ensures that he's crafting games that will really leverage the medium while still packing the punch of some akin to a well-crafted film or TV show. He's been able to pull things off with the help of major celebrities such as Kiefer Sutherland, Norman Reedus in Death Stranding, and now Death Stranding 2, which looks like it's boosting an even larger cast with actors like Ellie Fanning joining the series. Fans think that the legendary actor Keanu Reeves may also be joining Death Stranding 2. Over on Instagram, Hideo Kojima shared a post of Death Stranding star Norman Reedus with John Wick star Keanu Reeves hanging out, seemingly riding bikes somewhere. Both Reedus and Reeves have a strong passion for motorcycles, with Reedus having hosted a show about them on AMC. Dude, I didn't know that. Did you know that?
No, I wasn't aware.
That's cool. And Reeves, being a co-founder of Arc Motorcycle, is unclear if Kojima was on this journey as well, or if he's shared pictures, as he's a big fan of them. Big fan of the two. Scott, would this surprise you to see Keanu Reeves, which most notably known for, as of recently, Cyberpunk 2077, as Johnny Silverhand, right, has now made his way over to Death Stranding 2. No surprise. Keanu Reeves loves gaming. He's been a part of our industry now for quite some time.
It's a little bit of a mashup because I think of him as John Wick. So Death Stranding is not like John Wick. No. Not at all. So I'm wondering how he could fit in there, but we do know Kojima is a cinephile. He loves movies. He loves film. So this makes perfect sense.
No, I think it makes a lot of sense to bring in Keanu Reeves. They have big names. Troy Baker was in the last one as the bad guy, if you hadn't noticed. There's no spoilers there. That's out there. Dude, I never finished Death Stranding. It was such a departure from Metal Gear that it just never connected. And I don't know if I can get it enough of that connection to get into Death Stranding 2. You played Death Stranding 1, didn't you?
Just a very small amount, yes. When I was surprised it appeared on the Xbox app through Game Pass. So I thought I have to give that a spin. But I got about an hour in, and I think I need a couple more hours to really see the vision. It didn't happen to me yet.
No, it is definitely one of those you either love it or you hate it scenarios. There's a lot of people who love Death Stranding and the openness and this care package carrier storytelling event that what happened in Death Stranding. And dude, as much as I wanted to play, like I was several hours in, and I'm like, this just isn't hitting, it isn't connecting, and I just couldn't get into it. I had a hard time, which was really disappointing, right? Because Kojima is one of the major reasons why I'm here today, right? His visionary self and his vision for Metal Gear at the time when I first played was on PS1. Like there's some dates coming back around, right? But that whole intro to Metal Gear, and as you come up the elevator shaft, I've talked about this a few times on the shows, but dude, as it comes up through the elevator, I'm like, this is changing the landscape of video games. And he has throughout his entire journey in our career of being in the media and being involved in video games, you've seen him change directions. Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater being a major departure, but yet still in the same vein as Metal Gear, and then Metal Gear Solid 5 being a lot different than the other ones, and now we get into Death Stranding, which is just completely different. So if you're on the hopes of Metal Gear and you get into Death Stranding, that is not the case at all. And then I'm now curious to see if Death Stranding 2 is enough. If you haven't played the first one, do you need to play the first one to play 2?
Yeah, maybe there is some more action. Maybe this suggests there is a little bit more of an action loop that, well, I don't think we're going to go John Wick on anybody, but maybe that opportunity arises.
No, absolutely. And then Norman Reedus and Keanu Reeves, fantastic actors, right? So to have them hanging out together and being part of the next one, I think brings even more hype to the scale of what Death Stranding 2 could be. Death Stranding was Kojima Productions' first jump into the industry away from Konami, right? There's a departure there. A little bit of history going on today, Scott. There's a departure today, departure with Konami over Metal Gear Solid 5. They didn't get along, right? Kojima and Konami, and Kojima really didn't want to do the game at all. They wanted to go out and do other things, and then he left Konami, formed his own studio, Kojima Productions. PlayStation gave him the exclusive rights to help him out and fund the game, and then they launched it on PlayStation. And now we're getting into where 2 could go. Now, will you think 2, because now you're bringing in Norman Reedus once again, you're bringing in Keanu Reeves, you're bringing in so many of these high-profile names. Do you think he wants to keep it once again to a PlayStation exclusive, Scott? Or do you want to branch out and go, we're going to be multi-platform on day one?
I think it's still going to be a PlayStation exclusive. I don't know if the legal details allow it to be on other consoles still. It might be an IP locked kind of thing, but either way, I'm not sure if it really bothers Kojima much to be locked down exclusively to one platform, because he knows everybody will come.
Absolutely. Gamescom opening night live is tomorrow night, Scott. Do we see Death Stranding 2 there?
I think so. I think that's a pretty good bet. This is just an absolute monumental developer person, eccentric personality. I think we'll see it.
Yeah, and he's got great relationship and friendship with Jeff Keighley as well. So I think that might be a nice little back pocket. Hey, Kojima is in the house today, and he's showing off Death Stranding 2. He said, now I'm saying Jeff Keighley said, don't get your expectations too high. There's not going to be as many game announcements as there are kind of like check-ins. So I don't know. Do you think they end it with Death Stranding 2?
Oh, that would be a solid end, in my opinion. Yeah, we do know a little. We know it exists, so it's not exactly a world premiere.
That's exactly it. Scott, topic number 2. Dude, just like, what is going on here? Bethesda exec and former World of Warcraft director clash over Starfield's leaked title screen. Chris Scullion over at VGC. A Bethesda exec has clashed with the former World of Warcraft lead over the latter's comments on Starfield's leaked title screen. Former World of Warcraft director Mark Kern tweeted a screenshot of the Starfield title screen on Saturday and suggested that not enough time had been spent on it. Quote, "The start screen of a game can reveal a lot about how rushed the team was and how much pride they took in their work." End quote. Kern wrote, quote, "Starfield's start screen either shows hastily shipping deadlines by a passionate team overworked or a team that didn't care." End quote. Oh man, those really...
That's some bold judgment.
It certainly is. He went on though, he wasn't done. Quote, "Start screens are often done at the very end of development. Teams are too busy making the core game. It's quite common for the start screen to completely change once the game is shipping or on patch 0. Teams that take pride want to put a good face forward and will often redo these just prior to game going live, end quote. Well, here we go, because Kern's comments attracted criticism, notably from Bethesda's head of publishing, Pete Hines, who refuted Kern's suggestion that the title screen meant the team either didn't care or was just rushed to complete it. Quote, or they designed what they wanted, and that's been our menu for years and was one of the first things we settled on, end quote. Hines replied, quote, having an opinion is one thing. Questioning out a developer's care because you would have done it different is highly unprofessional coming from another dev, end quote. Scott, it's a start screen, but we're not done there yet, Scott, because in a now deleted tweet, as spotted by WCCF Tech, Microsoft Studio in Exile made a sarcastic reference to the debut by joking it was moving all developer resources off the main game to focus on the start screen. Quote, the campaign will be 45 minutes long, but the start screen will take 20 plus hours, end quote, the report read. Oh, Scott, have you ever seen anything like this?
A bit of a schoolyard bicker here, but I have to appreciate the response. Was it really that big of a deal? We've seen this kind of set fire on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. People kind of farming reactions, and I wonder if this is part of that, or if this is just an opportunity taken to make a little dig at what the biggest guy in the room. Because Starfield title screen, there's got to be a lot better things to nitpick than that.
Oh man, yeah, I can't go into any details, as we are all aware. I am currently reviewing the game for ITG right now, and I've seen the start screen, but it has also been leaked. And the start screen is a start screen. You really just care about the game, don't you? Like, I don't know.
Well, when's the last time you even remember a start screen? Go back in time. Do you even remember any? The only one I remember, and I'll tell you this, I've said it before, I think we can all gather around a mutual shared hate for mouse cursors on a console start screen.
The biggest one for you was Ghost Recon Breakpoint, because it wouldn't move. But Ubisoft has carried it throughout their entire lineage moving forward with this cursor icon moving around all your menus now, right? But yeah,
I don't know who did that first. If it was Destiny, that comes to mind, but I'm not a fan.
It's just so weird to see this be brought up at the sheer scope of what Starfield is versus its start screen, right? Which Pete Hines has stated was their original design from the beginning when they first started the game, and that's what they stuck with. Dude, it's just, from the leaked image, it's just a simple get in, get out, save your game, and then move on, right? Like, that's just it. I'm not sure what else you really need. It's just weird.
The only way I've seen that done much better or notable in any capacity would be Fallout 3. I think it's a well-established story that a lot of development very early on went on to the Pip-Boy, because that's your menu system, the start screen included. So that's the only time I've ever heard of any care put towards any sort of menu.
Yeah, dude, it just seems such a weird nitpick, but I don't know, man. Yeah, just raised some eyebrows over the weekend.
This next topic is one for both of us, near and dear to our hearts. The Metal Gear Solid Master Collection warns players that some content is considered outdated. Interesting. A disclaimer notes that the creator's original vision hasn't been changed. This is Chris Skellion at VGC. The upcoming Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1 includes a disclaimer at the start, warning players that some of the content may not be considered as appropriate in the present day. As reported by Games Radar, the compilation opens with a warning message informing players the content is unchanged, and as a result, some scenes may have a different impact than they did up to 25 years ago. And that's the thing, is I'm scratching my memory. It was a while back.
Oh man, yeah, absolutely.
Quote, this game contains expressions and themes which may be considered outdated, end quote. The disclaimer reportedly reads, quote, however, these elements have been included without alteration to preserve the historical context in which the game was made and the creator's original vision. Player discretion is advised. And that's the end of the quote. Although Hideo Kojima's name isn't explicitly mentioned, the reference to the creator's original vision implies a reference to him. Who else could it be, really? This disclaimer doesn't refer to the exact scenes that are considered outdated, but they could refer to the way the series portrays some female characters, particularly in the first game where Snake often hits on women, and Dr. Naomi tells Snake he can do a strip search on her if he completes his mission. I vaguely remember that one. That was awkward at the time. It could also refer to the series' occasional use of cigarettes, especially in particular moments in the original Metal Gear Solid 2 game where the player can use cigarettes to calm Snake's nerves and make certain sections of the game easier, implying that smoking has benefits. I think they make that joke too. The Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1 will be released on October 24th for the Nintendo Switch, Xbox Series consoles, PlayStation 4 and 5, and PC via Steam. The collection includes the first 3 Metal Gear Solid games, as well as the original MGX 2 versions of Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2, and the NES game Metal Gear and Snake's Revenge. It will also include further additional content, including digital graphic novels, screenplay books, and master books with story and character information, strategy guides for each game, and a digital soundtrack. That is one heck of a collection. I cannot wait. But does this surprise you at all?
Kind of, but not really, right? Like, get people preface to where our standards are today in the video game industry, right? There's a lot more respect at the end of the day, I think, where we are now versus 25 years ago. Things were a little bit different back then, or shall I say a lot different back then, right? We've seen the rise of people getting feedback of how to treat others, and there's a lot, not only within games, but within our own industry as well, and how people go about treating each other. And it's just a warning of, hey, these games are old, and back then our culture, not to excuse it back then, but it was just treated differently. So be mindful of where the content was created, when it was created, and know that it's not to today's standards. Because you wouldn't get some of these contexts in today's games, right?
No.
And get away with it, honestly, is what it comes down to. Like, the whole Dr. Naomi thing, that might be in there. Like, we've seen people... I saw Bungie get ridiculed for a trophy title. And because it was meaningful to a woman's perspective, I believe is what it was. I'm paraphrasing kind of here, right? But it was a woman who actually created the title, but they had to go in and change out the title of that trophy or achievement. So there's things that are just a little bit, the context now are just a lot more sensitive compared to back then. So I get the warning. I think it's a good thing to have moving forward. Overall though, Scott, dude, I'm just so excited for this collection. Are you gonna play the collection?
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to lose myself in this collection. But I agree with you. There's been a lot of social growth over the last 20 years. And although a disclaimer could be useful in this category, I like that it's not changing the original. Because it's very important to me that the original masterpieces stay that way.
Scott, Overwatch 2 director addresses review bombing on Steam. Chris Scully over at VGC says the director of Overwatch 2 has addressed the review bombing the game has received on Steam since its release on the platform last week. The game launched on Steam last Thursday, and at the time of writing, has just passed 150,000 user reviews, which Steam says are overwhelmingly negative. Steam stats say that only around 9% of the user-submitted reviews are positive. Ouch. Dude, that's not cool. But over in the Overwatch blog post, Aaron Keller acknowledged the response and says he understands the reasoning behind it. Quote, "We also launched on Steam last week, and although being review bombed isn't a fun experience, it's been great to see lots of new players jump into Overwatch 2 for the first time. Our goal with Overwatch 2 has been to make the game more accessible than ever for more people than ever before." Many of the reviews on Steam mention the cancellation of the much larger component of PvE, which was announced in 2019 as one of the primary reasons for dissatisfaction with the game. I get that. The announcement was about an ambitious project that we ultimately couldn't deliver. end quote. Scott, that kind of sucks, but he also went on to say this, quote, if we can't turn back the clock, then what do? He wrote, quote, we can keep adding to and improving Overwatch 2. That is how we move forward. This means more maps, heroes, game modes, missions, stories, events, cool cosmetics and features, and an ever expanding, evolving, and improving the game. This is the future of Overwatch, and where we will continually create and innovate on what is making the game great now for players who are playing now. End quote. Scott, what are your thoughts?
Well, a bit of a PR nightmare this is.
Yep.
It makes sense that somebody is going to answer this and have to say, hey, we're doing what we can, guys. We do hear you. And I think that's the most important detail, is that we did get the message through, guys. Everybody can kind of calm down a little bit now. This review bombing is warranted in a certain aspect. Making these opinions known and constructive criticism. Constructive criticism is what we do. That's what I can respect, and that's what the developers are going to listen to. But what I am seeing is that there's a lot of critiquing of the social commentary, the changes to certain characters, and I think a lot of that is socially and politically driven. That kind of feedback is not warranted or welcome in this venue, and that's really just it. Let's keep it constructive. They know what they've done wrong, and if they're going to, they can't roll back the clock, but they can add to the game. It kind of is puzzling, because what they've added is the character missions, slowly drip feeding it to us with a price tag attached. So
yeah,
I'm still doubtful for the future of Overwatch.
There's definitely a lot of questions with the future of Overwatch, right? I think what they tried to build off of with Overwatch 2 is the Fortnite scenario. Free to play, you just keep buying cosmetics day in, day out, day in, day out. Fortnite has its own model, and it clearly works for what they're doing. Overwatch is a completely different game, and it's not what people are used to or accustomed to when it comes to the game. 150,000 user reviews, with 9% of them being positive, is something that, to me, I feel almost where Steam needs to step in and say, hey, you know what, some of these reviews just aren't warranted, because it's user reviews. Anybody can go in and go, this game sucks, and that's considered a review. That is not a review, right? Like,
no.
To me, that's not a review. We obviously go in and we critique what's wrong with the game. What did they not do properly from our perspective sometimes, which, granted, we're not the developers and we never claim to be, so it's one of those things. But it's when they piecemeal the game out. What is the jump from 1 to 2? You took out PvE, which now you say you can't quite do, but you are introducing. Like, there's a lot of missteps here, a lot of miscommunication, I think, at the end of the day. But being transparent is something that's going to warrant the game moving forward and keeping the community alive. Dude, the future of Overwatch 2 is definitely up in arms, and we're going to be sitting here with bated breath kind of watching what this looks like. Will we see Overwatch 3? Only time? Well, time will tell. Scott, just a bit of a quiet day. Only 2 games out today, but what are they?
The calm before the storm. We have Kill the Crows on PC, and 6 Ages 2, Lights Going Out.
And there we go. Well, that'll wrap up today's show, everybody. Thank you for hanging out with us. This has been ITG Daily, the show that brings you the hottest in gaming news each and every day. We'll be back again tomorrow. I'm Drew. That's Scott.
And we'll see you inside the game.